Margaret Hayes didn't look like much when she walked into the school auditorium that rainy Thursday afternoon. Dressed in a plain grey sweater and worn jeans, her short, silvery hair framed a gentle face that had known many years of quiet living. She was there to volunteer at the school's community outreach event, an open invitation for anyone in the neighborhood to engage with students in small group activities. She'd signed up to help with refreshments and cleanup, but as fate would have it, the music teacher, Ms. Reyes, was running late and someone had double-booked the auditorium. A small group of teenagers, nervous, fidgeting and half-prepared, were rehearsing for a state competition. Their piece, Rachmaninoff's notoriously difficult Prelude in G minor. Margaret quietly took her place in the back, unnoticed, as the students stumbled through the piece. The pianist, a lanky senior named Connor, winced as he missed note after note. He stopped halfway through, defeated. "This piece is impossible," he muttered. Mr. Barnes, the assistant band director, who had stepped in temporarily, frowned. "It's not impossible, Connor. Just requires practice. If you can't do it, we'll find someone who can." Margaret gently raised her hand. "If it's all right, I know that piece. I could try just to help demonstrate." The room went silent. A few kids exchanged looks and smirks. Mr. Barnes blinked. "You know this piece?" "I used to play it," Margaret said with a shy smile. "A long time ago." He hesitated, then motioned to the grand piano. "Go ahead." Margaret walked slowly to the bench, adjusted the seat with practiced hands, and placed her fingers on the keys with surprising confidence. There was a pause, an inhale from the room, and then she began. What followed wasn't just music. It was mastery, passion, power. The thunderous chords rolled through the room like a rising tide, then fell into delicate arpeggios with such fluid grace it was as if the piano itself was responding to her soul. Every note was perfect, every tempo shift intentional. By the time she reached the final crescendo and let the last note fade into silence, the students sat frozen, jaws slack, eyes wide. Even Mr. Barnes was speechless. "Who are you?" he finally asked. Margaret gave a soft chuckle. "Just a neighbor." "No, seriously," one student said, standing. "That was better than anything I've heard on YouTube." "I used to perform a long time ago," she admitted, standing from the bench, "but life had other plans." As she gathered her purse and headed toward the exit, Miss Reyes arrived at the door, panting from the rain. "Sorry I'm late. Did the kids manage to rehearse anything?" Everyone turned to her in stunned silence. Then Mr. Barnes said, "Not exactly, but you just missed the best Rachmaninoff I've heard in 20 years. Later that evening, Margaret sat at home, sipping tea by the window. The piano in the corner of her modest living room sat covered in a lace cloth, untouched for years. But tonight, something inside her stirred. She walked over, pulled back the cover, and opened the lid. Her fingers rested on the keys once more, and she began to play. The next morning, Margaret was surprised to see an email from Ms. Reyes in her inbox. The subject line read, "Please call me. It's about the performance." Beneath it was a short but enthusiastic message, thanking her and asking if she'd consider working with the students as a guest mentor. Margaret hesitated. It had been decades since she had played in front of anyone, let alone taught, but something about the awe in the students' eyes yesterday had stirred a piece of her she'd thought long gone. Later that day, she stood once again in the school auditorium, this time not as a volunteer cleaning up paper cups, but as a mentor. The students gathered around the piano eagerly. Connor approached her. "Miss Hayes, I don't even know how to say this, but yesterday changed how I see music." She smiled gently. "That's kind of you, but music's always had that power. You just have to let it find you." He looked embarrassed. "I was frustrated. I thought if I couldn't play something perfectly, I shouldn't even try." Margaret's eyes softened. "Then maybe we should start by not aiming for perfection. Let's aim for feeling instead." Over the next hour, she guided the students, not with strict rules or impatient critiques, but with warmth and encouragement. She broke down difficult passages, simplified concepts that had once seemed unreachable, and above all, showed them that music was more than notes on a page. It was storytelling. Word of her playing and mentoring spread quickly. By the end of the week, the principal had invited her to speak at the upcoming school showcase. Margaret initially declined, but when the students begged her to perform one piece with them, just one, she reluctantly agreed. On the night of the showcase, the auditorium was packed. Parents, staff, and even a few local media outlets were present, curious about the mysterious pianist who had emerged from nowhere. Margaret sat backstage, heart pounding. It had been nearly 30 years since she last played for an audience. She could almost hear her late husband's voice in her head. "Once you sit down, everything else disappears." She took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. The spotlight hit her gently, and the crowd grew silent as she took her place at the piano. Connor stood beside her, violin in hand, as they prepared to perform a duet of Debussy's Clair de Lune. As she began, the soft, flowing melody poured from her fingers like light on water. Connor followed her lead beautifully, and together they created a moment of peace and magic in the packed auditorium. When the final note faded, the room erupted in applause. Standing up, Margaret gave a small bow, tears stinging her eyes. She wasn't just a simple woman anymore. She was once again an artist, a mentor, and a part of something bigger than herself. Afterward, a man approached her. He introduced himself as the director of a youth music foundation. "We work with kids from all backgrounds, especially those with no access to formal music education. I don't know your full story, Ms. Hayes, but I know heart when I see it. Would you consider joining our team?" Margaret's eyes welled up again. She nodded slowly. That night, as she walked home under the quiet stars, she felt a warmth she hadn't felt in years. The music hadn't just come back to her, it had come back through her to inspire a new generation. And all it took was one unexpected moment at a piano, and the courage to say yes.